like to call the June 8th, 2020 Village Board meeting to order. To start out, would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to
and
the
to the
republic
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Charlene, do you want to kick us off with the roll call, please? Do you have her off mute?
Let me unmute her. I just unmuted her. You're good to go, Char.
Go ahead, Charlene.
Actually, we're almost there. She's not letting me unmute her. Let's see. She's good. You're good, Charlene.
Okay, three's a charm. Okay, this evening we're starting with trustees Snagowski,
Here.
Stapleton,
Here.
Kittredge,
Here.
Kwasniewski,
Present.
Maher,
Here.
McClafferty.
Here.
Great. Thanks, Charlene. George, before we list out the consent agenda, do you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the details of the meeting and how the Zoom works for everyone?
I can give kind of a recap of some of the procedural items here. We do have a little bit of new information. The state passed new open meeting laws in regard to the pandemic and continuing to operate remotely through our board meetings. And so I believe the governor was going to sign it today or tomorrow. But regardless, we've been in compliance. We're going to continue. Some of the new rules include requiring that at least one person, either the mayor, the village administrator, or the attorney, actually be physically present at Village Hall. So I'll take one for the team today while you guys are sitting at home. So that is the one item. I'll just make note that I am here at Village Hall. A couple of the other new wrinkles. It requires a voice vote for pretty much everything. I know sometimes it's easier to do a roll call vote. It's easier to do a voice vote. That's no longer allowed. So Charlene will have to, even for the easy ones, we're gonna have to do a full roll call. So they want us to be on our meetings a little bit longer, I think. But no, other than that, we do have opportunities for participation. We stream the meeting online if you just want to watch it. We tape it or record it and put it on our website after the fact. During the meeting, you're also able to register and be part of the meeting, and we have public participation parts of the agenda. And you can also send in questions prior to, and I did receive a couple, so I'll read those at the time of the agenda item. But no, from there, the only other procedural item I'll mention, and it falls under the consent report. Well, first I'll talk about, again, similar to last time, we have two opportunities to speak today. We do have a public hearing regarding a budgetary item, and then we have our public participation process or part of the agenda where we're going to use the Zoom raise your hand method. I'll go through that later on in the meeting too. We'll call your name, unmute you, and then you can go ahead and speak. The last bit of housekeeping, I had a request from Trustee Maher to remove one of the items from the consent agenda and place on the regular agenda, or the clerk's report, I should call it. So I'll need a motion to do that. It's the removal of item 3F from the consent agenda and movement to the end of the clerk's report, and we'll discuss the item at that time. So from there, Mayor, that's all I have for you. I'll turn it over to you to ask for that motion.
Okay, great. So need a motion to move the temporary extension of the development agreement with Taylor Morrison to from the consent agenda to the clerk's report. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved, Trustee Maher.
Second, McClafferty.
Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Maher, seconded by Trustee McClafferty. So again, we won't be able to do this by a voice vote, correct, George? Charlene will have to.
Yeah, you'll have to call the roll call.
Okay, Charlene, you want to do a roll call, please?
Sure. Am I unmuted?
You're good.
All right. Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
yes,
Kwasniewski,
Yes.
Maher,
yes,
McClafferty.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved. Okay, so with that, we'll move to the consent agenda. Start with, we're going to have the approval of minutes for the May 11th Village Board meeting minutes, as well as the May 21st Village Board meeting. Approval of disbursements. In addition, ordinance O-33-20, amending the Lamont Municipal Code, Chapter 5.04 for liquor licenses, creating a Class A-9 liquor license for businesses that have outdoor physical activity. Also, ordinance 0-34-20, amending the Lamont Municipal Code, Chapter 5.04, Section 5.04.060.b for alcoholic beverages, increasing the number of A9 liquor licenses. And lastly, an ordinance 0-35-20, amending the Village of Lamont's policy prohibiting sexual harassment. I need a motion, please.
So moved. Snagowski.
Thank you.
Second, McClafferty.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Snagowski, seconded by trustee McClafferty. Again, no roll call. Charlene, I'm sorry, Charlene, you have to do the
There's a
roll call.
roll call. Okay, Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
yes,
Kwasniewski,
Yes.
Maher,
yes,
McClafferty.
Yes.
Okay, great. Motion approved. Next up, mayor's report. To start out the mayor's report, we're going to request a public hearing to appropriate funds from fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 21 for improvements to the I&M Canal pathway. I need a motion, please, to open up the public hearing.
so moved, trustee Maher.
Second, Kwasniewski.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Maher, seconded by trustee Kwasniewski. Do we have any, well, actually, we have to do a roll call, please, Charlene?
Okay, Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
yes,
Kwasniewski,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes,
McClafferty. McClafferty?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, so motion carries. It's now time for public comment. Do we have anyone that wants to comment on this I&M Canal pathway public hearing? George, you want to monitor that for me?
Yeah, and
please?
if, actually, Chris, you want to just give a brief overview and then I'll monitor if there are any comments. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So this was a project that we've had in the capital improvements plan, the 5-year capital improvements plan for many years. However, due to lack of funding, it's always been pushed off in hope that one day we'll have some increment to pay for the improvements. And additionally, Jason has tried to find some grant funding in the past as well, and we haven't been very successful in the past. There is a new grant opportunity, a fast track Rebuild Illinois opportunity that we hope that maybe that we are going to seek funding for it, and hopefully we will be awarded. And a part of that is that we have to appropriate the funds for this fiscal year and offer the public to speak on it, or give the public opportunity to speak on it. Should we not be successful in seeking this grant, we will, because like I said before, we don't have really the funding for it. We will not do the project unless we're successful in seeking the money.
Thanks, Chris. And Chris, I don't know if there's a question for you. What, maybe George or I don't know if Jason's on, but What type of improvements are we talking about when we refer to this canal pathway?
Yeah, this is the I&M Canal South ADA ramp and associated landscaping project. As Chris mentioned, we applied a couple times last couple of years, one through the county, the other one through ITEP, I believe. It's a good project. It's probably in the $600,000 range. It's going to provide an ADA accessible walkway and ramp at the Lamont Street pedestrian bridge. Right now, there's stairs and kind of a makeshift path. So yeah, along with landscaping and other hardscape improvements.
Great, thanks, George. Before we open it to public comment, does any of the other trustees have any questions or comments?
None for me, Mr. Mayor.
Great. George, do you have anyone from the public?
Yeah, let me, the only thing I'll mention.
What-
while I'm looking for hands-
I do have a question. This is Snagowski.
Go ahead, Rick.
One question is, what would be our portion to fund even if we get the grant?
There's no requirement. However, we are saying that so the money that we're requesting, we're going to request from the Rebuild Illinois is $601,558 is the engineer estimate. We're expecting about $65,000 of between engineering and additional engineering and admin costs that we may have to that would be our portion, but there's no mandated with this grant.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I have made a comment on this in the past, and so I might as well be consistent. I question the need for this. This is a ADA ramp across the bridge at Lamont Street. I think there are sufficient ADA park and handicap parking stalls on the north side of that. So in the future, I do see now that we've seen some preliminary drawings on the improvements over at the Peterson site. If that were to come through, there may be additional parking over there, and that need may become more necessary then. But I question the amount of need to spend whatever, 65,000 or 601,000. And I wonder if we don't have something that is maybe more needed, more urgent in that type of frame. So that's my comment. So I really don't have a question. I understand we would fund $65,000. I know it's a kind of a touchy subject, but I think there are more than one way to skin the cat here, and providing sufficient parking on both sides means that the crossing of the bridge is not necessary.
Yeah, I know. We talked about this at budget time, Trustee Snagowski. And first of all, we're going to be talking a little bit of a time crunch here on getting this grant in, but we're going to talk a little bit more next week about other grant opportunities. Really, what you try to do is try to match up ones that could be shovel ready as quickly as possible, because you get
Right.
this grant. But I think it also, since this one's teed up, it was an easy one to check the box. But I do think it does increase the walkability of downtown, and not just for ADA improvements, for our events, if and when we do have an event, having parents with strollers, and it just it increases the connectivity of the north and the south side of downtown.
That's true. And like I said, if there's more parking on the south, then it becomes more useful for those other other uses. Let me put it that way, like strollers and things of that nature. So I mean, as long as we're getting the majority of the funding, I'm not as against this as I was in the past. But like I said, I did comment against this in the past, questioning the need. But like I pointed out, there are some circumstances also have changed. I also, Chris, one more time, if you're still there, this is the Fast Track Build Illinois program. So the nomenclature was put out by the state, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
No.
I've lived with some other fast track terms that weren't taken so well.
Oh, yeah, no, this was they had the Rebuild Illinois before
Right.
the COVID-19. And when they did a COVID-19, they put together this, they took money out of the Rebuild Illinois instead of Fast Track. So
Right.
so the Rebuild Illinois is due June 30th. This Fast Track is due June 15th.
Right, I saw that in the report.
Yes.
Thank you. So that's what makes it carry that name. It's urgent.
Well, and then
Okay.
also the projects have to be, like George said, shovel ready, and they have to be started. I think by like September they have to be started, and they have to finish in a reasonable time. So it can't
Yep.
go. The other one is, I think, 2 years. This one's less than 2 years. So yeah,
Very good. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thanks, Rick. And any other of the other trustees have any comments?
No.
Before
No
we
other-
open it up, I mean, I just want to comment as well. And Rick, I totally hear what you're saying. And I think, this project probably doesn't make sense as it stands today, but it will probably make a lot more sense as we get potentially the Peterson property development
Right.
completed. And because as of right now, I know, it's not only strollers, but it's people on bicycles as well. And to get the connectivity there, I think, and potentially that Lamont Road can be, if what we're hearing, it's a possibility that could be an entranceway into, our downtown, or it could be a feature point. Again, that all has to be out with the development, but
Yes, I just think we're calling it ADA ramp, and it's more than that. And that is kind of my point, is that it covers much more than just ADA type uses. And there are potentials for other things coming in the future that will make that more necessary. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of also trying to explain my change of opinion on the thing based on the fact that there are some things that have changed. So the
Sure.
name is a little bit more misleading, but it is a ramp that I'll probably use myself rather than walk on those.
I'm not too far behind. No, I appreciate it. If none of the other trustees have anything else, George, anyone from the public, any hands up out there?
Nope, there are no hands up, and this will be on the agenda later for actually approving the allocation, but yeah, nothing for the public hearing.
Okay, great. So with that being said, need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Snagowski.
Second, McClafferty.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Snagowski, seconded by trustee McClafferty here at 6:50 PM. Need a roll call, please, Charlene.
Okay, Stokowski,
Yes.
thank you. Stapleton,
Yes.
let's see, Kittredge,
Yes.
Kwasniewski,
Yes.
Yes.
Maher, McClafferty.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved. Next up, we have the mayor's mention. To start, want to thank our Lamont Police Department. They've, as always, are doing a fantastic job. It's been a very, long week for them, long week and a half, a lot going on. And want to thank them as well as our Lima department as well, along with all of our partner agencies for all their hard work during this last week, during this period of civil unrest in the region that we've been experiencing. Obviously, it's been an emotionally charged week where some of the demonstrations around the area turned to unrest, which included looting and other criminal activities, both in shopping centers as well as downtown. In addition to, thanking them, the police department, they were working in conjunction with other departments and partner agencies. And, I want to thank them as well. They've been doing a great job keeping Lamont safe and secure during this period of potential unrest. While there obviously are no threats to Lamont, the village took precautions to ensure safety in our town. Among those precautions included additional officers on shifts, placement of trucks and vehicles through the town at shopping centers, as well as, again, working with our neighbor agencies for both and assistance. I'd also especially like to thank all of our residents and our business community for doing their part, during the local curfews that we had to implement early last week. Again, very happy to report, as of last Thursday, we've canceled all curfews so that we can go back to normal hours. And in the last couple of days, we've had 2 peaceful demonstrations that took place in town. Both went off with no issues. Happy to report. We will always support citizens' rights to exercise their First Amendment right to peacefully assemble. The first one was a peaceful event starting in our downtown. The second one was much larger and took place yesterday afternoon. And due to the expected size of the event, again, we had to take additional precautions to limit impact to surrounding areas and also to be ready for potential issues. Overall, it was a great event. There were many Lamont residents, local high school students, families, kids of all ages that attended, and it's good to see the community get involved, especially our younger generations. Again, thanks to the police department, as well as our emergency personnel. Want to especially thank the Public Works Department. Again, they are also, they've been working overtime, and again, want to thank not only Mark Mayton's group, but Ralph's group as well as again, our agency partners and our neighboring departments. Want to call out specifically Lockport and Woodridge for helping us out. There continues to be demonstrations in the region, and most over the last week or so have been peaceful. We will continue to work with our partners to monitor the region, again, for potential threats, but none are expected. Chief Maytown will have more information later in the meeting during his report. So again, want to thank everyone. Also want to remind residents and businesses, seems like over the last week, it can be easy to forget, but again, we are still in a COVID-19 pandemic and it's still active. We need to still continue to take precautions against this health crisis. It was great to see the entire state of Illinois move into phase 3 towards the end of May. Nearly all of our business reopened their doors. It's great to see, and all our restaurants and bars enjoyed good weather with their outdoor dining accommodations. Again, encourage everyone to get out. It's just been fantastic since we opened up. I think it was the Friday before last. Great to see everyone downtown. Great to see all the picnic benches that were put out. Want to give special thanks to the Lamont Public Works Department, as well as the Lamont Park District. They supplied those benches, and want to thank them for taking the initiative on securing the picnic tables for our businesses and their common areas. Also, want to give special thanks to Jason Berry, our Economic and Community Development Director, in addition to Ralph and his group and Mark and his group. Jason did a great job for communicating with all of our businesses to ensure we were ready to open. Jason does a great job. He hosts a Friday meeting every Friday, since at least the last several weeks. And happy to report all metrics are pointing to Illinois entering, the governor's phase 4 by the end of June. This phase 4 will allow for indoor dining with restrictions, but will also allow other openings in town as well. So for more information, please stay in contact with the village information channels for more information as we get closer to the end of this month. Also, collections continue to be taken for food and personal care items, as well as monetary donations for all those in need in our community. through our two food pantries. You can drop off items at the Lamont Township office at 1115 Warner Avenue. Also, our Heritage Quarry Recreation Area, our HQRA, is open to the public from dawn until dusk. Vehicular access to the north and south HQRA entries will be closed and secured at dusk. And security will conduct safety sweeps, including instructing any remaining visitors to exit the area. Again, parking is allowed in designated areas, only as indicated on the map. Again, please check out our text messaging. This was issued, but more information on this can be located at our website under Lamont HQRA. Again, encourage everyone needs to sign up for e-news via text messages, or you can get them through email as well. Please check out our website under Stay Informed. Please click on that. We are sending out end of the week information updates on Fridays with various topics. If you are not signed up to receive this, again, please check out the website and make sure you go to the Stay Informed at the bottom of that feature bar. Lastly, to end my report, this is definitely on a down note. It is with sadness that we have to share the news of the passing of Larry Walsh Sr. Larry was the Will County executive. Larry was an advocate and a great partner for Will County as well as Lamont. And he's a true friend of Lamont. And personally, he is a friend of mine as well as pretty much everyone on our board. And he has many friends throughout our community. Again, our hearts go out to him and his family. While we only have a small sliver of land in Will County, Larry was always willing to help Lamont in any way necessary. And on a side note, he always attended our State of the Village that we had on an annual basis and other events. If anyone had the privilege of knowing Larry, you will remember his kindness and attention he gave to everyone he met and his true willingness to work with everyone. Again, our condolences go out to the Walsh family during these difficult times. He will be deeply missed. So that is it for the mayor's mention. Like to move on to the clerk's report. Charlene, can you take that over, please?
Yes, since just as of this meeting, I inherited the section F from the consent agenda. Would you like me to do that first or at the end?
Yeah, sure. Do you have that to read, or do you want me to read it?
You could do it you want to do it at the end, Charlene, or?
Okay, you want me to do it at the
Yeah.
end? That's fine. Okay, I'll go ahead with my regularly scheduled report. Okay. The first item is an ordinance to, if passed this evening, and it would be O-36-20. And this is granting a final PUD approval for a 26-unit single-family detached residence subdivision. And that would be located on the northeast corner of Covington Drive and 127th Street in Lamont.
Okay, need a motion, please.
So moved, McClafferty.
Second, Maher.
Okay, motion by trustee McClafferty, seconded by trustee Maher. Jason or Mark, do you want to take the lead on this?
I think Mark's got it.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Thank you. The Covington Knolls Unit 8, a preliminary plan unit development had been approved last August. Recently, the applicants have applied for their final PUD. That was discussed at the May 6th, 2020 Planning and Zoning Commission, where it received a unanimous approval, recommendation for approval. This item was then discussed by the Committee of the Whole on May 18th, 2020. This specific ordinance is approving the zoning, the plan unit development. The following item, the resolution, specifically approves the plat. I'm willing to take any questions if you have any, and I know the developer, John Gallagher, and I believe Linda as well are present.
Thanks, Mark. Do any of the trustees have any questions or comments for Mark?
None for me.
None for me.
That's for me.
Okay, no questions then. So roll call, please.
Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
Yes.
Kwasniewski,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty,
yes,
Okay, motion approved.
The next item, if passed this evening, would be a resolution, and this would be Resolution R-23-20. And this is approving a final plat of subdivision for a 26-unit, single-family detached residential subdivision located at the northeast corner of Covington Drive and 127th Street in Lamont.
Okay, need a motion, please.
So moved,
So
Stapleton.
moved. Second, Snagowski.
Okay, motion by trustee Stapleton, seconded by trustee Snagowski. Mark, anything else to add on this, please?
No, I do not have anything else, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mark. With that being said, roll call, please.
Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
Yes.
Kwasniewski,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty.
yes,
Okay, motion approved.
Whoops. Okay, the next item is also a resolution. If passed this evening, it would be R-24-20. And this is committing local funds to the I&M Canal Pathway.
Okay, need a motion, please.
so
So
moved.
moved,
McClafferty.
Snagowski.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Snagowski, seconded by trustee McClafferty. Chris, you want to take the lead on this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this, we discussed the public hearing. This is actually, the resolution is to appropriate the funds into this year's budget. And like I said before, that if we do not receive the grant, we will not go forward with it because it's normally budgeted. It would be normally budgeted in a TIF. We actually are budgeting in the infrastructure fund. However, like I said, it won't move forward if we don't receive the grant funding.
Thanks, Chris. Any other questions or comments from the trustees?
None for me.
None for me.
None.
Okay, roll call, please.
Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kwasniewski. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Kittredge. I'm sorry, Kittredge.
Yes.
Thank you. I got ahead of myself there. Kwasniewski,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty.
Yes,
Okay, motion approved.
Okay, and then the next item was Part F, or whatever, from the consent agenda, and that's a temporary extension of development agreement with Taylor Morrison of Illinois, Inc. This is approved by the village board and in an ordinance O-4619 for a period of 3 months for the purposes of further due diligence.
Okay, need a motion, please.
So
so
moved,
moved.
Snagowski.
McClafferty.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Snagowski, seconded by trustee McClafferty. George, are you going to take the lead on this?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. ESBI LLC, owners of properties at 40 Timberline Drive and 100 West New Avenue, have requested an extension to the development agreement that was subject to the Timber Run subdivision between the village and the developer, Taylor Morrison. And just, they're doing it through their attorney, and the formal request was received towards the end of May 27th, I believe. So kind of got caught in between meetings. It probably needs a committee of the whole thorough discussion, but I'll go through it pretty brief and why the time crunch. Patty Bernard is the attorney for the property owner. She's on if anyone has any questions, but if I can go through real quick, I'll try to keep it brief. This project, a lot of history, obviously. It goes back to 2017. The Vistancia subdivision was approved, a larger development, but in the general vicinity back in 2017. At the time, it was not in the village, so what was approved was an annexation agreement, a plan unit development agreement, along with a rezoning ordinance. The project went nowhere. Taylor Morrison picked it up and ran with it. And what ended up happening was the village board approved a new PUD ordinance along with a development agreement. You can only enter into an annexation agreement one time. That's when properties are annexed. So with the second version of this overall project, the village approved a development agreement, which took the place of the annexation agreement from 2017, and then approved a new PUD, which took the place of the old PUD back from 2017. The PUD and the agreement, they are separate documents. Obviously, they serve different purposes. The PUD, more zoning, exhibits, landscape, anything subject to findings of fact from the Planning and Zoning Commission. The development agreement is a little bit more comprehensive. It provides for terms, I would say, over and above the PUD, and basically what they are requesting at this point, the terms in the agreement with Taylor Morrison is that if the property isn't completely purchased or sold or closed on, within a year, the development agreement expires. And that date is quickly approaching. Actually, the board approved it on June 10th, or so tomorrow would be the date if it expired. My concern in bringing this to the board is that the PUD, as we understand it, is still active on the site. So you have an active PUD, but the agreement, which, we don't enter into these agreements just to pay attorneys. We also receive assurances, we receive additional benefits over and above, I guess, our zoning ordinances that the village might, rather than just throw it out, might want to keep the development agreement active, at least for a short period of time. A couple of those examples in the development agreement that are not in the PUD, just the detail on, building out a brand new park for the park district, the detail of additional impact fees over and above what is allowed in our code. And probably more importantly, the ability for the village board to consent to any reassignment of the project. So if the PUD is active and the development agreement isn't, in theory, a new developer or builder could come in and build according to the PUD, and the village wouldn't have the ability to have those extra assurances. Again, I think from the developer or the landowners asked for an extension of a year to continue to find a new developing partner. I do recognize that there's some fatigue on this project, staff and the community's been through it over and over. I think that there needs to be a shorter period of any type of extension than a year. That's why we threw back out, let's try to get this back to the table and talk about it with the property owners within a 3-month period. And also that will give us our time to do due diligence on what happens with the approved PUD. So, kind of a long-winded answer. Again, with the development, with the PUD being active, even if it's the development agreement expires, the PUD is still active, and where does that leave us? So, I did get a couple questions from, I believe he's on here, Mr. Schmidt, Eric Schmidt. He's attended a couple planning and zonings. Good questions. I hope I addressed them. Who are the property owners? That's ESBI, as I talked about. And the second question, why are we considering extending an existing 1-year agreement when they had a full year to manage the process? Their mistake was going with Taylor Morrison, which couldn't finish their end of the business in allotted time. COVID delay isn't a reason to simply change our requirements. Again, I responded back. I think it's sent an email to Eric today. Again, I'm just concerned with having one agreement and not the other. But I do think, again, I do recognize there's a little bit of fatigue on this project. I think we need to get the property owners or their attorney to the table and talk further about this. I'm being overly cautious with this one. So I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor, if you had any comments, and we can kind of direct from there. And Patty Bernhardt is on the call if we need to call on her.
Hey, George.
George, this is Mike Stillman. I don't know if you want me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, George, I just wanted to let the board know and the mayor know that we've been working on this, and in looking at the PUD and the development agreement. I am in agreement with George's recommendation and analysis. You have the PUD that's existing. We need to ensure that we have the level of protection that we do under the development agreement. And I understand that there is, as you said, some level of fatigue. So the 3 months gives us the time. We've been incredibly busy, and we've had other issues, obviously, dealing with the pandemic. But if we have the 3 months, we can deal with the owner and make the determination that with the development agreement. So this is we're erring on the side of caution, but I would say that it's in your legal best interest to do so, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mike. And George, it's important that we need a thorough discussion on this. And I think you mentioned that if we do move forward with this extension, that this would be discussed more thoroughly at a cow. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. And I think one of the cloudy areas is that PUDs do expire. We've seen that with many projects, right? I mean, we just had Notting Hill in here for the 9th or 10th time that the village board approved extensions. PUDs do expire. The problem in our code, and it's something we probably got to look at, that preliminary PUDs expire if you don't file an application for final PUD within a year. And Taylor Morrison did meet that requirement. So what happened? How long is the final PUD active for? Or something we got to dig into as well. Taylor Morrison will not build this project. I think we talked about that maybe the previous meeting. They've left Chicagoland essentially or completely. So it would be a new developer. It would not be Taylor Morrison. So just wanted to clarify that as well.
Yeah, thanks, George. And just to repeat, obviously Vistancia, that PUD was the original that was discussed in 16 and passed in, I mean, it's been around for 5 years and it's passed in 2017, correct? And that Vistancia PUD was replaced. That was obviously much more intense. I think it was well over 250 units. So again, the current PUD is active. I know, or I at least know, but I know a lot of the landowners to the west. George, you want to comment on? I think 2 or 3 of them have come in with different plans. Again, we do not expect development to the west, but there are a lot of plans, I think, that were being discussed by those landowners. Can you comment on those a little bit as well?
Yeah, no, we've had meetings, the property owners to the immediate west who were involved with the original Vistancia development, where there, if you recall, there was going to be duplex units along the tollway. Those property owners were part of those conversations, but were not part of this new conversation. They came to us asking, hey, what can we do out here? It's a complicated one, especially with COVID and the potential recession upon us. I mean, if you thought doing a full scale development was going to be difficult back in good times, I think it's a tough one. But they asked about industrial, and they want to develop their property, and so it may make sense to bring even those individuals in and talk about the area. Yeah, that could overcomplicate it and make it go nowhere. But yeah, good point, Mr. Mayor. I mean, we've had the property owners to the west want to develop too, and it's just a really tough site, as we've all figured out, with the ravine. And so yeah, that's something that we can bring them into the conversation. So I'm sure Patty wouldn't have a problem with that either, from the property owners. I mean, how do we look at this entire area holistically, and this will give us some time. Okay,
great. And again, we'll talk more about it at the cow. What I'm hearing just in general is that we have to live with the PUD. There's no canceling the current PUD. We have to live with it. And the development agreement is what we are trying to extend today. And the development agreement, without that development agreement, we lose a lot of favorable terms to the village. And those terms are in that agreement. I'm sure, it's available. I know I'm sure that the trustees have had a chance to look at it as well. So with that being said, any other questions or comments?
Trustee Bogowski had his virtual hand up first, so and then Lafferty.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. With the change from was Pulte Homes, and it went to Taylor Morrison. Who is ESBI? Never heard of him before.
It's a limited liability corporation that represents the property owners. So they do not have a developer inc. They are marketing the site though, the PUD and the development agreement. So they're trying to find.
So are they representing Taylor Morrison? Are they representing MI Homes? Who are they representing? Pulte? Who are they?
And Patty, if you want to just maybe a good time to introduce yourself. You're representing the property owners, correct? That's where.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Patty Bernhardt. I'm with Rosanova and Whitaker, and we represent ESBI. It's called ESBI Lamont LLC, and they are a limited liability company. They are, I think, this property was at one point in time retaken over by the bank. And so these are some of the bank investors that have gotten together to form this LLC to own the property and to sell the property. So, and like Mr. Schaefer said, Taylor Morrison has left the state of Illinois. So through no fault of my client, I totally understand that there have been a number of owners out here, or a number of developers, but my client would just like a little bit of time so that they can get this property marketed. During COVID, of course, there was nothing happening at all. So that 3 months is really lost there. So they just want some time to continue to market the property. And in the meantime, sit down with the village, work with COW to see if we can come up with some kind of agreement, maybe where they have ownership of the property, but just take it until.
Well, that's my question. Who has ownership of the property?
ESBI.
The bank? ESI? Who are these?
ESBI LLC. I'm sorry. ESBI Lamont LLC
But it's
is there are a number of investors who have ownership of the property.
Okay.
Can you comment, Patty, on the owners of the property of the LLC?
I believe there are, the person that I'm working with, his name is Mark Abadi, and he was with Elgin State Bank, who was one of the banks that when the property was, I believe, foreclosed on, Elgin State Bank got that property, I believe. So, so right now, they have that property left from the foreclosure. That was one property that didn't go to the new bank that took over. When somebody forecloses, I believe the bank then steps in and takes over all the properties. This was one that did not get taken over by the new bank. So these investors kept that property, and they are looking.
So we got property moving along with banks moving. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So so it really is their goal to get this property sold. I know they have tried working with a number of developers, Pulte and Taylor Morrison, and they were very excited about the Taylor Morrison project. It just unfortunately, when Taylor Morrison left Illinois, they hadn't purchased this property. So MI Homes took over most of the properties that Taylor Morrison had already purchased. But in this case, Taylor Morrison hadn't purchased the property yet. So MI Homes did not take over the development of this property. So, and then just when Taylor Morrison left, our client was kind of left holding the bag and trying to figure out how we can get this property sold and developed in the village. So
okay, well, you did your best to try to answer my question. I have
I
another
don't
one.
have everybody's names, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So.
thank you.
Yeah.
George, I have another question. So I thought I had understood that the due diligence was on our request, our part, that we wanted more time on the legal end of it. But I also hear that the LLC is looking for more time also.
Correct. Yeah, they requested it formally, and first glance at it, we looked at it, and then I think everyone realizes that there's probably not going to be development here in the near future. But after looking at it further with legal, and so, well, you never know, and we'd hate to lose some favorable terms in a development agreement when we didn't have to. So we kind of Friday we decided that it might be good to keep this one going. But
Right.
that's kind of how it materialized. They formally asked. You're correct.
Okay, and then the last thing, you guys mentioned the property owners to the west. When you say that, if I remember right, this property went up to the east limits of the tollway. So are you talking west of the tollway then?
No, there's a
Or are you talking about that one parcel that the homeowner had a homestead back in there,
Correct.
that one?
Yep,
Okay.
that kind of goes all the way to New Avenue, if you can picture it, and it hugs the
Yeah.
tollway.
Right, I know where it is. Okay.
Yeah, and they good, nice people. I mean, they're local. They really the tollway didn't do them a great service when the tollway put in their tollway road, obviously, and kind of trapped them, and they really are trapped. I mean, unless they can find a way to New Avenue, and so it's a tough one. I feel for those property owners.
Hey, Rick, I'm the one who commented to the property owners to the west. What I was alluding to was the other property owners next, real close to the tollway, George, that they've been coming in, talking industrial and wanting to get connectivity to Main Street. They want, I'm not going to talk on their behalf, but they're looking and wanting to develop industrial and with connectivity to Main Street. So that's been,
All right, well, we'll cover that at the cow. I just didn't, I couldn't picture what property it was other than the sliver property between the tollway and this parcel, which virtually was a driveway to the south end, and then there was a homestead as you went further north.
Right. And again, I commented on it because if if residential goes to the east, it probably, it fits that, residential or open space is
Right.
ideal going, forward with it. So,
Okay.
but it can go either way. So anyway, any other hands up, George?
Trustee McClafferty had his hand up next, and then Maher.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Ken.
the question I have is if the development agreement holds the developer to a higher standard than what's in the PUD, why would we limit it to 3 months? Why not tie it indefinitely so that we can hold the whole development to a higher standard?
You know what? I think it was more, talking to Mike to introduce a sense of urgency to actually figure this thing out, because I hate for it to go on and on. But you're right. I mean, in theory, we should tie it for however long.
I would hate to tie their hands. Like all of a sudden, 3 months from now, we're back and we're going over this all over again. The staff have spent so much time on this, and it's just, I'd hate to be 3 months from now going over the whole thing again, and staff going through all this again.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's
Dave,
all I got.
thanks, Ken. Dave, you got some comments?
Yeah, Trustee McClafferty asked one of my questions. I didn't completely understand that. Can you explain to me the term of the current PUD? When does that expire?
Don't know.
It's a good question. I don't know if Mike, it's pretty clear in our code that the preliminary PUD expires in a year. But, and maybe Mark could best, he knows the code like the back of his hand, but you want to try Mike first and then.
Well, I think you accurately described Taylor Morrison, before they left the Illinois market, made the request as the party to have the PUD be extended. So Mark is there. I think it's our opinion that probably, Trustee Maher, is until, Mark, what did we say, next May, right? I mean, that's what we
No,
thought.
the,
No?
so, in June of last year, in addition to the development agreement, that's when the preliminary PUD was approved. Taylor Morrison submitted in December. So it's not just the
December,
code,
sorry.
the preliminary PUD does also specifically state that the preliminary PUD is valid, and that up until it lapses if the developer does not file a complete application within a year. Taylor Morrison had done that. They filed a complete bona fide final PUD application in December. We even went to planning and zoning with this. And we had staff memos for the committee of the whole prepared. And it was then with the Taylor Morrison leaving Illinois and my homes thing that those got postponed. So George, much earlier, a bit ago, mentioned kind of a gray area, and maybe something that we could just clean up in the code at some point. Is we do have this gray area where we have an approved preliminary PUD, and per the language of that is valid until December. I don't have the specific date in front of me, but it's December. But you know, that final PUD is not really progressing, and nor had it been formally withdrawn by anybody from Taylor Morrison. So that's part of what my discussion with Mike was when this came in, and George was, that's part of it as well, with the idea of getting a little bit more time to look at the legal of it, is to get a little bit more time to look at the legal of it from that end as well.
And not to get too convoluted on the legal end, but there are various provisions within the development agreement as to who can make the request, and it's our feeling is we wanted to, and there are different provisions, Trustee Maher, under the development agreement as to who can make the request to extend the development agreement. So in order for us to make sure all the provisions are followed, and this might, Trustee McClafferty, this might address your question too. We didn't want to give them too long, because we want to make sure that they have the proper standing. But in order to do that due diligence, in order to ensure that they have the proper standing, we need to have more than a day, essentially. Tomorrow, we need to have a couple, 2 to 3 months is what we thought would be the best solution, coinciding with the PUD. So that's why a shorter amount of time as to in regards to this, rather than the 6 months, the 9 months, because we have to make sure that all the provisions of the development agreement on the legal end are followed. So that's why we're recommending it. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
So, sorry, it does, except I just want to make sure I understand. We're saying we don't know though when the final PUD would expire. I didn't feel like I understood the answer to that question specifically.
The PUD, see, what they did is they made the request. Taylor Morrison, before they left the market, Trustee Maher made the request to extend the PUD, and it's our best estimate in looking at all the, because we have 2 documents that are in interplay here. I think what Mark is saying is that we're looking at and thinking that December is the date that the PUD would expire under Taylor Morrison's request, because they're no longer in the market. So you have one legal document hanging out there until December, and then the development agreement coincides with it. And the development agreement gives us far more protection. So we don't want to have the PUD until December, and then the development agreement, which is much better for the village, expire.
Hey,
So
Mike.
Yeah,
I think we're Dave's go. I think that the answer, our code appears to be silent on when a final PUD expires. Would you
that's
say
correct. That's correct. Sorry about that.
We don't have an approved final PUD. A final PUD would expire if they don't commence site development within 1 year approval.
1 year.
PUD. We're in an area where we have an approved preliminary PUD, a final PUD application, which addresses the language in the code about when a preliminary PUD expires, it's tied to filing for the final, which has been done. The gray area is the limbo that we're in with the fact that there's no further progress with the final PUD. You guys have not approved a final PUD yet.
Correct.
Okay, so we're confident to say that we think sometime in December, it would expire if nothing else is done on this PUD, correct? Is that what you're saying?
First review of it, Mike. I mean, I think we need to dig into it more, but we can make an argument that December is the date but we have to, I mean.
Okay,
we have to talk about
and
it.
this
Right.
development agreement,
I am in agreement with that, yes.
okay. And this development agreement is more strict on the building code or less strict on the building code than the PUD?
Stricter, yes, more strict. We have better provisions for the village under the development agreement.
Okay, so
And-
then,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead, George.
No, and the other one would be, in the development agreement, the village board has to consent to an assignment of who comes in and builds. That's
Correct.
how I read it. That's where the more important one probably.
That's probably the most, right, because the way it stands right now is under the PUD, we don't have as much ability to evaluate who the new developer would be. And that, when George and I were just going over this on Friday, that's what rules of protection that we wanted. And again,
Okay.
we might be doing this for naught, but that's our job to make sure all the contingencies are followed.
Okay, and then my last question is, if the current owner of the site does not ask for an extension, can we force an extension?
Under the development agreement or the PUD? I'm sorry.
I don't know. I heard you say the development agreement has to be extension has to be requested by the developer.
That's correct. That's correct.
So if they don't request it, does it, well, if they don't request it in 3 months, will it expire?
Well, that's a good question, and that's why we're trying to ensure that there's a provision under assignment, and we don't have all the due diligence. We don't have everything, so I hate to tell you that yes or no, because I don't have all the answers yet, and I don't want to do that until we discuss that with them.
But we don't have a
If I might
choice. Sorry, Rick, real quick. But Mike, we don't have a choice because this expires tomorrow.
Correct.
So our only choice is to vote on this. Do we have the ability to change this date?
We have the ability to. There's been a formal request by the owner to do that. You can do that, and they've requested that, and it's your option to continue that, and that's what we're recommending.
But sorry, go ahead, George.
No, and I think when you're going to, and I think does the village board have the option tonight here to push it off longer or shorter?
Why don't we just tie it to the PUD date? That's the question on the table.
Yes.
At least I think that's what Dave's alluding to. Why don't we, if we're worried about they don't match, then why don't we make them match?
Yeah.
That's a policy issue, but on a legal end, we wanted to make sure that we got you the answer. So if you want to tie that on a policy issue, absolutely you can do that.
Right, and still you'd have the time then that you're looking for, but we don't. Otherwise, this thing is going to expire in September, and we still got a PUD that goes to December. Why not make it go to December at least?
Yep, good point.
It's a good point, and we were just trying to. We knew there were some issues, and we wanted to get you the answer as quickly as possible. But if you want to do that on a policy end, that's certainly under your purview.
Okay, but the main thing that you guys are advising to George and what George is looking for is to maintain this. What the hell did I say?
Development agreement.
Control over the consignment of a new developer. That is
Correct.
the main thing that you're trying to protect. Because
Absolutely.
if I recall, the agreement also contains some language that might be less conducive to the village. But obviously, I do agree that controlling who builds is important to us.
Yeah, there's also, I mean, I think for a development this size, you always want an agreement, because there's some other items in there that were important, like the ability to put in place a dormant SSA if the developer doesn't do what they're told, or there's also additional impact fees the village was able to get out of this deal. So yeah,
Well, those are all things that you want to go through.
Yep.
And there are also things that we can, if there's an issue that you need to bring to us, we can talk about it at the cow. So having more time is a good idea. And I think Dave's concern would be, let's not do this again. Why not? Let's try to tie this to the PUD so that we've got them running together. We don't have to worry about these two clocks.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Dave, I'm not trying to put words in your
No,
mouth,
Rick,
but what I thought.
that's exactly my point. It sounds like it doesn't make sense for the dates to be different.
Right.
I'm not hearing anything that we definitely don't want. It sounds like we definitely don't want this to expire, and it's favorable for a buyer if it does expire. So,
and if I recall, I think what Mark said is exactly correct. I think the PUD would expire if no action is taken within 12 months. I think we did put that in because we didn't want to. We were trying to put a clock in. So now, after 12 months, the developer would have to come back to us and request an extension, which we could deny. But at 12 months, it expires. I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure that's the language.
okay.
And that,
So-
like, they can change that tonight, even though it says 3 months on the agenda, they could make a motion to, if that's what they want to do, to go to
We would
December.
amend that motion.
Yeah, you would make them, that's correct. That's correct, trustee Snagowski. You just make the motion to amend it for the time to 6 months, yes.
Now, is it do we say 6 months or till the PUD expires? We don't know the exact date.
Well, I would prefer that. I would prefer, it's a good point. So we don't have to clean it up. Let's make the two of them tied. So let's make it the motion to amend the motion to
The development agreement, Mike, that's what you're to tie to the
development
PUD, I think.
Yes, the development agreement ties to the PUD, correct. Yes.
Perfect.
To tie expiration date to PUD.
Expiration, to make the expiration of the development agreement to be the same as that of the PUD. How's that?
Okay.
That's even better.
Good.
All right. So do you want me to make that motion then? Is that what?
So you need to make a motion to amend it,
Well,
and then the second you take a vote, and then
Okay.
that's how then the original motion expires.
Does that make
Okay.
sense for everybody before, to line it up with the PUD?
yes,
Yeah, good.
I think.
Yes, it's fine.
Okay. So do you want George, or do you want me to make that motion?
Yeah, if you could.
Okay. So I make a motion to amend the motion for development agreement to expiration date equal to the same as the PUD.
Do we have a second?
I second. McClafferty.
Okay. Motion by trustee Maher, seconded by trustee McClafferty. Charlene, can you do the roll call, please, for us?
And this roll calls for the amended motion, right? Not
Correct.
for the actual vote. Okay.
Yeah.
Charlene, you're all good. Let's see. Hold on. There you go.
Okay, Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
Yes.
pardon me? Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Kwasniewski,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion carries to make that amendment. Now, is there any other, before we do the vote, is there any other questions or comments before we take the vote on this?
None for me. Thank you.
Patty, did you have anything else, or do you think that's fair?
I think that's fair. Yes, we appreciate the time.
All good, George?
Yeah, all good.
Okay. Charlene, roll call?
Okay, let's see, here we are. Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
Yes.
Kwasniewski,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved. Thanks, Charlene.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Patty. Appreciate it. Okay. Next up, Mike, anything on the village attorney report?
I kind of used my time up already, I think. Other than we've been working a lot with all your staff this last month, both on the various parts of the reopening of the economy under the Restore Illinois, and then of course with the civil unrest. And I would say that as George has indicated, looking good to hit phase 4 as of June 26th is the first legal date that we can hit phase 4. Do we know all the rules? Do we know exactly what's going to be allowed under phase 4? Oh, you just put it up there. So there'll be a further easing of all the restrictions. You will see restaurants probably have new guidelines to allow some types of indoor eating, and the restrictions on businesses and retail right now have certain restriction of 50% that'll be eased as well. So we look forward to that being on June 26th. You know, we've hit all the metrics. It looks like we're going to continue to hit all the metrics, and then we just have to get to phase 5. I will say that we got to phase 3 and 4 within the 30 days. Phase 5 has a lot. It's a lot more ambitious. So let's hope we can get there in a month, but I'm not sure if we can. But that's what we're doing, and we're working with doing the phone calls or the Zoom calls every week as well. So look forward to giving some more good information to all your business owners, Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Mike, quick question for you. The last, milestone when we went from phase 2 to phase 3, the legislative bodies of Illinois were called into session, and I think there was quite a bit of discussion or clarifications or changes to what the governor first approved going into phase 3. My question twofold: is there a scheduled re-meet of the two bodies, and is there, and if there are changes and if the bodies are not meeting, does the governor have jurisdiction to make those changes?
The governor still under the, with his various bodies, including the Illinois Department of Public Health, has the ability to put into effect the rules under the Restore Illinois, but there is a legislative committee that's headed by State Representative Kelly Burke, who is in charge of overseeing all of these things. So she's working along with the mayor and her committee to ensure that if changes need to be made, that's being done. So that's being. I will also there is going to be a special session of both the House and the Senate, but from what we understand, that is going to be based on the civil unrest issues and the justice issues. But right now we're being told that there's not going to be anything regarding the COVID-19 issues that are coming up, and we believe that they'll meet next week. But that could change once they're meeting. You know that they could take up other things as well.
Right. Well, that's good to hear that Kelly Burke, who is an employee with your firm, and we know, right. Kelly, it's good to have people that we know on both sides of the aisle. So it's good to hear that
she's very level-headed, definitely.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And I know she did a lot of pro-business going into phase 3. So that's good to hear. So thanks, Mike. Yep. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
George, anything on the administrator report?
Yeah, quick couple updates, Mr. Mayor, just to reset everybody for June. Still a lot going on. We'll still continue with Zoom for a little while longer. On Wednesday, we're going to get this out here. We're having another meeting with the downtown focus group, so you'll be able to participate at that meeting. Check our website. Next Monday, we have our regular committee of the whole. We're going to talk a little bit more about the budget. starting to see how last year's fiscal year ended up. So just an update there, maybe an amendment. And then talking a lot about these grant projects. There's more than just the fast track, and there's some other grants out there, and it'd be good to kind of talk to the board, prioritize. We also were able to secure some money through the upcoming state budget. Senator Curran and Leader Durkin checked in just before budget approval, and we were able to get some projects carved out for Lamont. We just have to go through a process and decide which ones. So we're going to talk about that on the 15th, along with some UDO amendments. So everyone's sharp on their UDO now, so that'll be exciting. The 16th, I know we're going to be working overtime next week. We did this last year where we had a joint meeting with the Lamont Park District Board, and it was really successful. And I think this year we're going to do that on the 16th. We'll put a login information out so people can participate. A lot of good stuff happening downtown. The village is working with the Park District on securing a lease from the MWRD for land on the north of Stevens Street, the old Tri-Central property. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about Kettering Park a little bit, and also just give an overall update on where the Forge is at. Our recreation, our bike and pedestrian bridge over the sanitary ship canal, trying to get everyone on the same page of what's happening downtown and anything related to recreation. June 24th, although I don't know if they're going to meet yet. That's our typical or scheduled meeting for the Heritage and Outdoor Recreation Commission. We got word today that the DNR is going to be coming out and doing finally coming in and stocking our Great Lakes quarry with walleye. They're not ready to catch yet, so we'll wait a couple of years before we do a full release and try to have tournaments out there and stuff. But so that's exciting, getting walleye into the quarry. And then our meeting for June is going to be June 29th. That is a new date. Had some scheduling conflicts, but just wanted to bring everybody up to speed on that date. Before I turn it over to the board or back to the mayor, Chief's going to mention it too, and the mayor already mentioned it. Try to get involved with our notification system. We're going to be adding to it here in the next month. We're converting over to a new system, and we're going to add new tools. But you can see there's a lot going on. It's not just the public safety, but information on vehicle stickers went out last week. The mayor's video talking about the unrest in the region went out, had a lot of views and a lot of compliments. And the township's having an event later in June, a shredding event. The chambers continuing with their golf outing this year, and actually the Park District's doing a lot of creative events to keep people busy and still maintaining all the rules that the governor has laid out. And then just more information on the HQRA area. Chief's going to go through a little bit more, but please try to sign up for those notifications. It's not all going to be. We have more Facebook followers than anything, but we don't always put everything out on Facebook. We try to keep that more marketing and PR related. We have other tools that for more emergency related items. And so please keep in touch with our different channels. So, and lastly, before I turn it over, I just want to reiterate what the mayor mentioned. The police department, public works, all the departments did an outstanding job. They should be commended, and just seeing them operate on Sunday in their emergency operations center, it was an event that could have created some issues, and they were ready for them. But more importantly, I love it for the training. You get to see how these guys are in action, and if we did have a bigger issue in town, they're definitely ready to go. So I just got to commend Chief Mayton, Ralph Pakula. Everyone's ready and coordinating, and the network that everyone has. Woodridge was out there with their police department helping us. Lockport, we probably could have had others if we needed them. Just to give everyone a comfortable feeling that if something happens in town, we are ready, and there's a coalition to work with the rest of our neighbors too. So that's all I have for you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, George. And again, just reiterate what you said, and all of the partnering taxing bodies assisted, all did a great job. Fire department, Park District, so forth. So on township, everyone did a great job. So appreciate all their help as well. Next up, any board reports? Anyone on the board have anything to say?
Done for me.
Okay. How about staff reports? Chief, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I don't want to reiterate what you and George had already mentioned on the event, but a couple things I want to comment on. First of all, I appreciate the acknowledgement from yourself and the administrator on my staff. I think they did a great job throughout the last week. I certainly understand the anxiety from the public as they watch, night after night, these events unfold around the Chicago area. We were informed, like everybody else, on social media of the event planned in Lamont, but we were able to immediately make contact with the organizers. They were some young Lamont residents. They were very cooperative. They had already chosen the location of the where the rally was going to be, but they worked with us and kept us informed and made sure that there was no outside forces that were interacting with them that could have turned this into an event that would have been unsafe. We certainly support the First Amendment rights for anybody to lawfully and peacefully protest in the area. And we planned from the beginning to make a safe environment for both the protesters and for the public, to make sure that it was the event that it ended up turning out to be. I do want to make a comment on the communication. From the time the original poster was shared on the internet, we started receiving, dozens and dozens of emails from the public, as did the administrator and the mayor. And the same staff that would have been available to answer those emails was busy planning the operation. So we decided it would be most useful for us to use the Stay Informed and to use the media to make the announcements, because all the emails were generally in the same arena. So if you haven't signed up for Stay Informed, that's where those messages were going out. And we received a couple of emails with folks disappointed that they hadn't been personally replied to back. But at some point, the volume gets so large that staff doesn't have time for individual emails, and does think it's a better way to send it out to the public. So we were keeping folks informed. But if you weren't on those Stay Informed messages, they were not all picked up by the patch. But the patch did a good job as well, trying to keep the folks informed.
Thanks, Chief. And I reiterate that as well. I know all of us received many emails, and I hope everyone had all their questions answered either through the videos or through some of the follow-up conversations that we had either in person. But again, thank you to you and your staff, as well as Ralph and gang.
Thanks. And the last thing, I know you both said it, but I really appreciate the support of our neighboring agencies that come in and assist us when we asked, and we were ready and have assisted other agencies during this past week as well.
Awesome. Great. Thanks. Okay. Any other staff reports?
I think Ralph had a quick report. Go ahead, Ralph.
I have a quick one, Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks.
I wanted to report that we are currently doing our water main replacement on Singer Avenue. So just be aware that there's a lot of equipment over there, and be careful driving through there. Singer and Eureka and Pfeiffer over in that area. Also, our road resurfacing will start probably after July 4th. That will last about a month, and just be aware of that. And we are aware in the Public Works Department that people are eating outside downtown. And next to that canal, the mosquitoes can get pretty bad. So we are doing a partial spray tonight after 11 p.m. We will be hitting the downtown area as well as the quarry area, parts of the quarry area that we can get to. So we are aware of that, and we're going to be out tonight. That's all I have tonight.
Hey Ralph, not to put you on, any update on the parking area out in the Forge? If they started any of that work or?
You know what, George, I haven't been down there with all the projects we got
Yeah.
going. So I'll get one for you tomorrow and I'll talk to Jeanette and go
I
down
think
there.
we just executed the agreement, so they probably haven't mobilized yet, but you'll start to see, if anyone goes back in the core area, you're gonna start to see more construction. So just be patient with it. You know, it'll be a great improvement, but I'm sure it'll be a little cumbersome to get around back there for the next few weeks. Thanks, Ralph.
Thanks, Ralph. And thanks again for, the mosquito work. The businesses, I was out Thursday and Friday, obviously out and about on Saturday and Sunday as well. Thursday, Friday, it was jammed. 1 hour waits at some of the places. Great to see people out and enjoying themselves. And I'd like to, thank your staff as well, not only the picnic tables, but also the, taking care of the mosquitoes. As it gets hotter, some of these places are gonna not only have mosquito issues, but issues with, fans and sun coverage as well. So again, thanks to you and your staff. With that being said, do we have any unfinished or new business we need to take care of? From anyone on the board?
I got a new business item, Mr. Mayor. I just want to put a placeholder in for this because it came up tonight and it's come up in the past. And I will address this to Mark and George and Mike in the future. I think we need to do something with developers that come in and we put all this legwork into these projects. We have engineering work on them. We go through these things time and time again, and then they move on. And we need some way to control that or recover those dollars, whether it be an escrow account, a bond of some sort. But we got to come up with something because it's ridiculous amount of time that is spent on these things only to see them walk away or market them off and then have these other problems that come up. Everybody's got one, but in the end, the problem I got is we're out money. That's the problem. So I want to put that on the list of things to do. When I know you're really hammered now, but when we sit down next year's planning, whenever you guys see a break, that and I Mark, I'm addressing it to you because I know you have to put up with it. So, let us know what we can do to help you because it's frustrating, not only for us, but certainly for you.
Yeah, and Rick, and no, it's a good point. And I think every year we do these UDO amendments. We're going to talk about a set that came through at our committee of the whole meeting on Monday. It's a good idea to start talking about those issues and what can we investigate further. Because I agree. I think Patty probably felt the brunt of my disappointment when I was talking to her last week on this project. The amount of staff time, legal time, and I don't know what the answer is. Maybe it's requiring sale of property at an earlier stage, or we just do an escrow. I think that's a good way to do it too. But if we go through an entire process and then the sale.
Well, we always bend over backwards to get these in, and we want to be helpful. We want to move things along, but we also can't be so naive to think that these things aren't possible to happen. Certainly when they've happened to us more than once. So, you don't have to beat your head against the wall too many times. I know you're going insane.
Yep.
Just to be clear, we do get an escrow. It's largely, intended to cover, like the village engineer, village arborist, et cetera, outside consultant costs. I just wanted to put that out there, but I get your point.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
That's it.
All right. Thanks, Rick. Anyone else? Okay, turn it over to you, George, for audience participation.
Yeah, we're getting to the end of the meeting here. This is an opportunity if anyone wants to speak. And again, similar to previous, I'll put the directions up. I think we're all getting pretty good at Zoom by now. Raise your hand if you haven't figured out how to do it. But if there's any comments, you'll have 3 minutes, and I'll unmute you and let you speak. But I don't have. Nope, I don't have anybody raising their hand, so I think we're good on comments.
Okay, thanks, George. All right, no executive session, correct?
Correct,
No action for closed items, so we're gonna need a motion to adjourn, followed by an individual roll call. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved, McClafferty.
Second, Kittredge.
All right, we have a motion by trustee McClafferty, seconded by trustee Kittredge. Can we get a roll call, please, Charlene?
Sure. Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
Yes.
Presneski,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved. Again, want to thank everyone on the board, everyone joining us for a great meeting. Appreciate everyone's input, and we are officially adjourned.